Okay. Okay, we can start now. All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope everyone is doing well, and I hope you all are making the most of this blessed month of Ramadan. It's 19th of Ramadan right now, and we only have around 20 days to go till Ramadan is over. So make the most of it. Do as much zikr, as much charity, and fill up your bank of good deeds. Welcome to the Ramadan Summit. This is the final treat of the Design Post-COVID Humanity program based on the three virtues, Taruf, Ta'awun, and Tarahum: acquaintance, cooperation, and mercifulness. DPCH is under the umbrella of Maker Majlis, which is an initiative organized by the College of Islamic Studies at Hamad bin Khalifa University in Qatar. To end DPCH with some inspiration, we are having a speaker a day for this entire holy month to enlighten you with their TED-style talk. I'm Alina Zaman Khan, and I will be a moderator for today. We will be having a double treat of speakers for you, and our first guest speaker will be Shaikha Al-Marri, and the second will be Jordan Hattar. So, to introduce Shaikha Al-Marri, Shaikha Al-Marri graduated from Virginia Commonwealth University with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Graphic Design with a focus on globalization and identity. She received the highest third votes in the Qatar youth election and is now a member of the Minister of Culture and Sports Youth Advisory Committee. Shaikha is also well known for holding three ambassadorial positions: Akhlaqunaz Ambassador, Qatar's Environmental Ambassador under the umbrella of the Green Building Council, and Friendship Ambassador under the Arch of the United Nations. Shaikha has also created a name for herself by working with the Supreme Legacy Road 2022 to create a mural in the Education City Stadium with a number of talented artists. Now, without further ado, Shaikha Al-Marri on the real perception of happiness.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Thank you, Alina, for the beautiful introduction. Now, allow me to share my screen with you guys. So I'll be speaking about happiness. Is my screen, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure. All right. So what is happiness? Happiness is an emotional state characterized by feelings of joy, satisfaction, contentment, and fulfillment. Now, while happiness has many different definitions, it is often described as involving positive emotions and life satisfaction. When most people talk about happiness, they might be talking about how they feel in the present moment, or they might be referring to a more general sense of how they feel about life. Now, from Islamic perspective, happiness is not merely a temporary state of joy and delight. Rather, it is a lifelong process aiming primarily at bringing eternal happiness, peace of mind, tranquility of heart, and contentment in this world, and everlasting bliss in the hereafter, right? In the hereafter. So happiness tends to be such a broadly defined term. Psychologists and other social scientists typically use the term subjective well-being when they talk about emotional state. Just as it sounds, subjective well-being tends to focus on an individual's overall personal feelings about their life in the present. Now, two key components of happiness. The two key components of happiness is the balance of emotions and life satisfaction. Now, the balance of emotions, everyone experiences both positive and negative emotions, feelings, and moods. Now, happiness is generally generally linked to experiencing more positive feelings than negative. And when talking about life satisfaction, this relates to how satisfied you feel with different areas of your life, including your relationships, work, achievements, and other things that you consider important. Now, how to know if you are happy? Well, this is the question. While perceptions of happiness may be different from one person to the next, there are some key signs that psychologists look for when measuring and assessing happiness. Some key signs of happiness include feeling like you are living the life you wanted, feeling that the conditions of your life are good, feeling that you have accomplished what you want in life. It also like feeling satisfied with your life, feeling positive more than negative. It is like these signs. It's like it feels like the person is open to learning new things and high in patience also. Also smiles and laugh, goes with the flow, practice compassion, and also these people are often grateful, and also they exercise self-care. They enjoy healthy relationships, and those people also are happy for other people. That is the signs of how these psychologists measures how these specific people are happy in their lives. And also one of the signs is lives the meaning, like they are living the life that have meaning for them and also have a purpose. Also these people do not feel entitled and has a fewer expectations. Also they are not also holding grudges or not to register small annoyance or do not angst over yesterday or tomorrow, because these kind of thoughts increase the stress level of a person and distract them from focusing on their real goal in life. One important thing to remember is that happiness isn't a state of constant euphoria. Instead, happiness is an overall sense of experiencing more positive emotions than negative ones. Happy people still feel the whole range of human emotions: anger, frustration, boredom, loneliness, and even sadness from time to time. But even when faced with discomfort, they have an underlying sense of optimism. Um, Optimism is that things will get better, uh, that they can deal with what is happening, and also that they will be able to feel happy again. And here where the benefits of optimism come. Now, what is optimism? Optimism is a mental attitude characterized by hope and confidence in success and a positive future. Optimism, optimistic people are those who expect good things to happen. Also, where pessimists instead predict, unfavorable outcomes. Optimistic attitudes are linked with a number of benefits, including a better coping skill, lower stress levels, better physical health, and higher resistance when pursuing goals. This is optimism. Now, when we want to talk about types of happiness, what is type of happiness? What are those types of happiness? Now, there are many different ways of thinking about happiness. For example, the Muslim scholar Al-Ghazali, he represents happiness as it's a mixture of knowledge and actions based on knowledge. And these actions are good actions. Now, many different ways of thinking about happiness. For example, the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, Ar- Aristotle made a distinction between two different kinds of happiness: Hedonia and Eudaimonia. These are two types of happiness for this philosopher. Hedonia is happiness driven from pleasure. It is most often associated with doing what feels good, self-care, fulfilling desires, experiencing enjoyment, and feeling a sense of satisfaction. Now, eudaimonia, this type of happiness, is derived from seeking virtue and meaning, important components of eudaimonic well-being, including feeling that your life has a meaning, value, and purpose. It is associated more with fulfilling responsibilities, investing in long-term goals, concern for the welfare of other people, and living up to personal ideals. Now, hedonia and eudaimonia are more commonly known today in psychology as pleasure and meaning. Uh, More recently, psychologists have suggested that the addition of the third component that relates to engagement. These are feelings of commitment and participation in different areas of life. Research, research suggests that happy people tend to rank pretty high on eudaimonic life satisfaction and better than average on their hedonic life satisfaction. All of these can play an important role in the overall experience of happiness, although the relative value of each can be highly subjective. Some activities may be both pleasurable and meaningful, while others might skew more one way or the other. For example, volunteering, right? Volunteering for a cause, for example, for a cause they believe in might be more meaningful than pleasurable. I personally find both actually, and it depends from person to person. Watching your favorite, for example, TV show, on the other hand, might rank lower in meaning and higher on pleasure. I remember I've seen a video of a psychologist that speaks about the difference between joy, I think, yes, joy and happiness, and the difference between these two phrases. And he highlighted that joy is a temporary pleasure, but happiness is a long-term feeling, and it comes with linked with satisfaction. And it was really interesting because these days so many people get mixed with these two words, and some people don't understand it really well, the difference between joy and happiness. Now, some of different types of happiness that may fall under these three main categories that I just said. Joy, which is an often relatively brief feeling that is felt in the present moment. Also, excitement, a happy feeling that involves looking forward to something with positive anticipation. Also, gratitude, which is a positive emotion that involves being thankful and appreciative. Also, pride, a feeling of satisfaction in something that you have accomplished. Optimism, this is a way of looking at life with a positive, upbeat outlook. Also, contentment, which is this type of happiness involves a sense of satisfaction. Now, let's go to how to practice happiness. While some people just tend to be naturally happier, there are things that you can do to cultivate your sense of happiness. First, pursue intrinsic goals, which means achieving goals that you are intrinsically motivated to pursue, particularly ones that are focused on personal growth and community. This can help boost happiness. Research suggests that pursuing these types of intrinsically motivated goals can increase happiness more than pursuing extrinsic goals like gaining money or status. Also, enjoy the moment. Studies have found that people tend to over earn. They become so focused on accumulating things that they lost track of actually enjoying what they are doing. So rather than falling into the trap of mindlessly accumulating to the detriment of your own happiness, focus on practicing gratitude for the things you have and enjoying the process as you go. Also, reframe, and this is really important, reframe negative thoughts. When you find yourself stuck in a pessimistic outlook or experiencing negativity, look for ways that you can reframe your thoughts in a more positive way. People have a natural negativity bias or a tendency to pay more attention to bad things than to good things. This can have an impact on everything from how you make decisions to how you form impressions of other people. Discounting the positive, a cognitive distortion where people focus on the negative and ignore the positive, can also contribute to negative thoughts. So, reframing these negative perceptions isn't about ignoring the bad. Instead, it means trying to take a more balanced, realistic look at events. It allows you to notice patterns in your thinking and then challenge negative thoughts. And here we go to the next question, and it's about what is the impact of happiness? When you practice happiness, what is the impact of happiness? Happiness has been shown to predict positive outcomes in many different areas of life. Positive emotions increase satisfaction with life. Happiness helps people to helps people build stronger coping skills and emotional resources. Positive emotions also are linked to better health and longevity also. One study found that people who experienced more positive emotions than negative ones were more likely to have survived over a 13 years period. A positive feelings increase resilience. Resilience helps people to better manage stress and bounce back better when faced with setbacks. For example, one study found that happier people tend to have lower levels of the stress hormone cortisol, and that these benefits tend to persist over time. People who report having a positive state of well-being are more likely to engage in healthy behaviors such as eating fruits and vegetables and engaging in regular physical exercise. Being happy may help you get sick less often. Also, happier mental states are linked to increased immunity. And this is really important today with the pandemic that's going on. Focus on your mental health, focus on your happy status, and to boost your immunity, because the psychological aspect of this pandemic is even worse than wherever is going around. So please guys be careful of that. Also, we'll go to the next question of how to improve your happiness. Now, improving your happiness, it is essential to understand the psychology of happiness, to know how much control we have over it. Now, James Monitor, a renowned global equity strategist, studied behavioral psychology and concluded in his research, The Psychology of Happiness, that psychologists have found that happiness is comprised of three components. Some people seem to have a naturally higher baseline for happiness. One large scale study of more than 2,000 twins suggested that around 50% of overall life satisfaction was due to genetics and 10% of external events and 40% to individual activities. And here's where the practice and daily habits comes here. The importance of it. Believe it, you guys, it's like a large number, 40%. It could actually influence our satisfaction of life. So while you might not be able to control what your base level of happiness is, there are things that you can do to make your life happier and more fulfilling. Even the happiest of individuals can feel down from time to time, and happiness is something that all people need to consciously pursue. Because the journey of happiness, it's not always, pink. It's not always, on a specific level. This is life. It's up and down. But the important thing is that you keep yourself aware of what's going around you, and also be aware of how to manage, challenges around you. And this is the beauty of life, because the challenges is what makes a better version of you guys every day. And the important thing is that every day we end up with satisfaction and gratitude. This is a secret of feeling happy. One of the things that you can do to be happy is to get regular exercise. Exercise is good for both your body and your mind. Physical activity is linked to a range of physical and psychological benefits, including improved mood. Numerous studies have shown that regular exercise may play a role in warding off symptoms of depression, but evidence also suggests that it may also help make people happier too. In one analysis of past research on the connection between physical activity and happiness, researchers found a constant positive link. Even a little bit of exercise produces a happiness boost. People who were physically active for as little as 10 minutes, even if it's 10 minutes a day, or who worked out only once a week, had a higher levels of happiness than people who never exercised. Also, show gratitude. In one study, participants were asked to engage in a writing exercise for 10 to 20 minutes each night before bed. Some were instructed to write about daily hassles, some about neutral events, and some about things they were grateful for. The research found that people who had written about gratitude had increased positive emotions, increased subjective happiness, and improved life satisfaction. As the authors of the study suggest, keeping a gratitude list is a relatively easy, affordable, simple, and a pleasant way to boost your mood. Try setting aside a few minutes each night to write down or think about things in your life that you are grateful for. Also, one of the secrets is find a sense of purpose in your life. Find the meaning in your life. What is your message? What is the great impact that you want to do? Even if it was a little, everyone is special. Everyone has a very special impact in the world. What kind of impact do you want to Do you want to live when you grow up, years later, that you want to remember? This is really important to find a sense of purpose. Research has found that people who feel like they have a purpose have better well-being and feel more fulfilled. A sense of purpose involves seeing your life as having goals, direction, and meaning. It may help improve happiness by promoting healthier behaviors also. Some things you can do to help find a sense of purpose include explore your interests and passions, also engage in pro-social and altruistic causes, work also to address injustice. For example, look for new things you might want to learn more about, because I always personally, I like to read more and I like to research more um, uh, the meaning or the philosophy of happiness, the philosophy of living, and the fact that our life is temporary. It doesn't allow me actually to have any regrets or feel down or even depressed, because I feel that the beauty of life is the meaning and the message of every person in life. And that's why it is important to have purpose in your life, because everyone have so many good talents, so many good ideas, so many good messages to spread it to the world. Now, this sense of purpose is influenced by a variety of factors, but it is also something that you can cultivate. It involves finding a goal that you care deeply about, that will lead you to engage in productive, positive actions in order to work towards that goal. Now, there are specific challenges. While seeking happiness is important, there are times when the pursuit of life satisfactions falls short. Some challenges to watch for include is like valuing the wrong things. Money may not be able to buy happiness, but there is a research that spending money on things like experiences can make you happier than spending it on material possessions. One study also, for example, found that spending money on things that buy time, such as spending money on time, saving services, can increase happiness and life satisfaction. Rather than overvaluing things such as money, status, or material possessions, pursuing goals that results in more free time or enjoyable experiences may have a higher happiness reward. Also, one of the challenges is not seeking social support. Social support means having friends and loved ones that you can turn to for support. Research has found that received social support plays an important role in subjective well-being. For example, one study found that perceptions of social support were responsible for 43% of a person's level of happiness. It is important also to remember that when it comes to social support, quality is more important than quantity. Having just a few very close and trusted friends, and also a great network with the family members and cousins, for example, will have a great impact on your overall happiness than having many, casual acquaintances. Also, thinking of happiness as an endpoint, and this is very important point. Thinking of happiness as an endpoint. Happiness isn't it a goal that you can simply reach and be done with it. It is a constant pursuit that requires a continual nurturing and sustenance. One study found that people who tend to value happiness most also tend to feel the least satisfied with their lives. Essentially, happiness becomes such a lofty goal that it becomes virtually unattainable. Valuing happiness could be self-defeating because the more people value happiness, the more likely they will feel disappointed. Perhaps the lesson is to not make something as broadly defined as happiness your goal. Instead, focus on building and cultivating the sort of life and relationships that bring fulfillment and satisfaction to your life. It is also important to consider how personally define happiness. Happiness is a broad term that means different things to different people. Rather than looking at happiness as an endpoint, it can be more helpful to think about what happiness really means to you. And then work on small things that will help you become happier. This can make achieving these goals more manageable and less overwhelming. Thank you so much. And this was Shaikha Al-Marri. My talk was about happiness and the true perspective of happiness. Hope you all guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Shaikha. That was such an incredible talk. And this is such a profound topic. I think we can go on forever, like talking about happiness and discussing happiness. I just have one question for you. So have you ever experienced a time where your happiness depended on others? And would you still define this as happiness if it's not coming from your inner self?
Sorry, I just heard your voice. I didn't hear the beginning of the question. Can you repeat it, please, Alina?
Okay, so my question is, have you ever experienced a time where your happiness depended on others?
Yes, I think when I was maybe 15 or 14, between that, from 14 to 17 years old. Like, you know, I didn't have and I see it as a privilege, the privilege of having this dialogue with so many people and speaking about happiness, feelings, and emotions. And my, sorry, my happiness, I thought that happiness relies on specific people or specific materials, you know? I think someone has opened their mic.
Yes, sorry, you can continue.
And when I more grew up, the more I had this beautiful, very deep, enriching conversation with my mom, family members, and also, you know, these kind of talks, very inspiring talks in YouTube and from, you know, great influencers, has opened my eyes into the real perspective of happiness. And it is within us. We create happiness. It shouldn't be, you know, relied on the externals, whether we're people or materials. They could be like part of increasing the happiness levels in ourselves and life satisfaction, but most importantly, it's all ends up with our perspective of what we really feel about our life.
Okay, thank you so much, Shaikha. And we have another question from Tekang. Tekang, would you like to unmute yourself? Okay.
Yeah, thanks very much. Hi, Maria. Probably I have this question for you. Thanks very much for the happiness sermon. It's the first day of the month of May. And this is my question. A lot of young people, a lot of people, you can put it that way, do fake happiness when they're in the midst of the friends. How do we kind of reconcile this issue?
I didn't hear your question very well.
I was saying that a lot of people fake happiness in the midst of their friends, probably going through difficulties and a lot more. So not trying to show a very difficult pattern of their lives, the fake happiness in the midst of their friends. What advice can you give to them?
What advice? Because I think there is two sounds in one time that I'm hearing right now. I really apologize.
Okay, I'm going to take it again. What I was saying is some people fake happiness, they fake to be happy, which is actually not the same. That's actually not what they are feeling. Probably they could be going through some family issues, some personal issues, and when they happen to find themselves in the midst of their friends, they just kind of show a different part about their lives, like pretending to be happy. So what's your advice about this situation?
Shaikha, did you hear his question?
Actually, I think I'm having a sounds issue, actually a technical issue. I truly apologize.
Yeah.
Okay.
Babe, I think he's in a room and this affects also my sound effect.
Okay, so basically he's saying, what advice would you give to people who fake their happiness?
Fake their happiness?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I'm not advising this because there should be one time that they will give up because it's a temporary thing. And actually, faking and emotions, it's a big stress and a big load, psychologically for people themselves. And this will lead to very negative, feelings and emotions. And it could be reflected on the way they treat people and also in their progress in life. It could affect negatively when they fake, happiness, because it's like ignoring what is really going inside and what is really going in their minds. And I would rather to face these emotions, analyze these emotions, ask why it came and how to manage it. And I give myself time and I give myself the freedom and the right to express my feeling to myself or to people around me, actually.
All right. Sorry. Thank you so much, Shaikha. Thank you so much for giving us this valuable talk on happiness. I think we all needed this reminder, especially during the time of COVID. So let's all be positive. Let's all strive to be more happier. And especially since it's Ramadan as well, let's try on being happy for the sake of God so we can feel the happiness from our inner self. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, you guys, and focus on your practices. Do all the good habits because it all has a good reflection on your emotions. Wish you all the best and have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, and now we will be moving on to our next talk by Jordan Hattar. So Jordan Hattar first started working in the humanitarian crisis at the age of 18 in South Sudan. Since then, Jordan has worked extensively on the Syrian refugee crisis and interned in the Obama White House. He holds a BA in International Studies from California State University, Long Beach, and a master's degree in International Relations from the University of Cambridge. Jordan has been invited to speak in more than 45 countries and leads service trips to Jordan. Jordan currently runs the nonprofit he co-founded, Help for Refugees. Over to you, Jordan.
Thank you so much, Alina. And Shaikha, that was an incredible talk. It made me think about so many things. I've got a whole page of notes. Salam alaikum. And
thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jordan.
Thank you. I'll be definitely referencing stuff from your talk in the upcoming slides.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to talk today. So I'm currently in the country of Jordan, and for my time today, I wanted to talk about the difference we can make and what making a difference really is about. When I was 13 years old, I thought making a difference was all about giving money. And Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast in the United States, and the city of New Orleans went 80% underwater. And I remember watching these images on TV, even though I grew up in California, thousands of miles away. And I donated all my money to relief efforts, but I never even knew where the money went. And that's when I realized there's so much more to service than monetary donations. It's about giving our heart, giving our time. And when I was 17 years old, I wanted to go to South Sudan after learning about the genocide in Western Sudan in Darfur. And I wanted to do more than just fundraise and be an activist. I wanted to meet the people. And I ended up going to live in South Sudan when I was 18 with this guy, Deng Jongkuch. And we went to build a medical clinic in his parents' village. And he said something I'll never forget. He said, "You don't always need a specific skill in order to make a difference in this world, just a heart. You don't always need a specific skill, just a heart, and you can learn the skills as you go." And that's been my approach over the last 10 years. I could share many stories from South Sudan, but it really it gave my life purpose. And as I started university in Los Angeles, the first series, I studied international relations and Arabic. And the first Syrian I ever met was my Arabic teacher. This is a picture of her and her husband and her 2 daughters. And every day she would talk about Syria. And this was at the beginning of the conflict in 2011. But to me, Syria was this very distant place. But one day after class, I went to her office and she was crying, and I said, "Ustadha Shumalik, what's wrong?" And, she went on to share her personal story about 2 family members being killed in Syria, and they were the same age as me at the time. And I just remember thinking, we need to do something. I ended up coming here to Jordan, and the Zatari refugee camp had just opened. And when I got to the camp, these are the kind of things I saw. The camp was underwater. And I would go around the refugee camp asking the Syrian people, what do you want to share with the world? And what are your biggest needs? And I'll never forget what one mother told me when I asked her, what do you want to share with the world? She looked at me and said, to know that I could be your mom. And then she turned to her 2 daughters, Lial and Sidra, and they were waving at me. And she said, to know that those could be your sisters. And then she turned to her son, about 5 years old, and she said, to know that that could be your brother. And it was this remembrance that it's just chance where we're born. And that's really driven me towards trying to learn Syrian refugee stories. My first time I was only in Jordan for 3 months. I had to go back to California, to keep going to university. But everything felt different because I had friends that were doctors and students in Syria, and I was learning about the atrocities in Syria. And this was a picture of a Syrian American Medical Society hospital that was bombed. And I remember 2 of the girls that were killed in this bombing, they were student nurses, and they could have left Syria to go to Turkey or Lebanon, but instead they stayed to help the physicians left in Aleppo. And I just remember learning their story and just crying for about 2 weeks. And then I turned to my mentor who went through he was in Kigali during the 1994 Rwandan genocide. And I said, you've seen some awful, what do you have to take away from this? And he reminded me that, the courage and the inspiration that these girls give us for staying and trying to help, that will always be more powerful of a message than those that'll be more powerful of a message than those that bombed this hospital. And he went on to say, we have to love the beauty more than we hate the evil. We have to love the beauty more than we hate the evil. And that, it reminds me of what Shaikha talked about with optimism. We have a choice. We don't always choose what happens to us in this world, but we always choose how are we going to respond. It's a really blurry picture, but I was talking to my friend Dr. Osama today. He's in Syria. He's a surgeon, on the front lines. And, you know, it really reminds me that we all have choices in this world. And, you know, one student asked him when I was doing a Zoom call with him, you know, what happens if you die in Syria? What about your kids? And he said, well, then my kids will know that, you know, I followed my passion and I had purpose in this world and tried to give back to our community. And it just reminds me that, you know, we have this life as an opportunity to really make a difference. And, you know, when I think of love the beauty more than you hate the evil, I think of the people that inspire me, like Dr. Osama. And people will often say that others' acts are just a drop in the ocean when you look at all of the world's problems. When I was in the refugee camp, we ended up fundraising for these caravans, these box houses, because the refugees were living in tents. And the school I spoke at in upstate New York gave 2 caravans to the refugee camp. And people could say that it's a drop in the ocean, and I can see that. But that one drop really can make a difference. And I got an email after a couple of the caravan deliveries from the UN, UNHCR, and they said, kindly note that every registered family in the Zatari camp has access to at least a prefabricated shelter. And I was shocked. You know, these students gave some of the first caravans, and it became a ripple effect. Governments from across the Gulf gave 20,000 caravans basically overnight. And now every single family has a caravan in this camp. And it reminds me that, you know, no action is ever too small. And I think one of the best ways to make a difference is to follow our heart. And I think that really goes, and if we follow our heart, I think that's, you know, one of the best ways to, as Shaikha said, you know, to improve our happiness, to do what's most true to us. And, you know, a couple of years ago, I read the book, The Alchemist, by Paulo Coelho. And in this book, he said, there's a secret to life. The secret of life is to fall down 7 times and get up 8. And I had actually applied 7 times to intern in the Obama White House. And here's a screenshot of all the times I didn't get in. It's like my alternative CV. But this book actually motivated me to apply an 8th time. And on the 8th try, I ended up getting in. And I share that because I think one of the ingredients in order to live a life of purpose and to follow our passion is to be persistent. And it comes from, I think, a belief in ourselves. And the last thing I wanted to share was this poem. And every day the world will drag you by the hand, yelling, this is important, and this is important, and this is important. You need to worry about this and this and this. And each day it's up to you to yank your hand back, put it on your heart, and say, no, this is what's important. You know, ever since I feel like since I was 14 years old, I felt like everyone's pulling on me in different directions, whether it be, you know, what sports you should play, what later on, what universities you should go to, or, you know, how we should lead our lives. But I think, you know, the impact that we make is really up to us, you know, and I'm not saying that it has to be the Syrian refugee crisis, whatever your passion is, but just to fearlessly follow it and to not let anyone tell you that what you care about doesn't matter, because I think it really does. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jordan. That was so amazing. MashaAllah, that was so inspirational. And I would just like to touch upon the point about you made that when we about making monetary donations, you know, and I can relate to this because when I visited Pakistan and I was at it was at Islamic Relief Pakistan, and I met these widows. And at that time, you know, we didn't have the we're not prepared, and we just thought of it. We're like, okay, so if we were to financially help them, but is there any other way how we can help them and make a difference in their life, which they would actually like and be happy with and be content with. So so with that, and for me personally, I feel that, you know, happiness is more to just, you know, about money, and it's just about doing things, you know, which you like, and just following your heart, and that's more important. And at that time I realized, if I had maybe just financially helped them, then maybe I wouldn't be where I am today, just working on a project which means so much to me. And yes, definitely, all of the key concepts that you talked about, I think the number one thing is that we need to follow our heart, and we need to, and with doing this, then we're not living in this life of regret. Like, as for you, I would just ask, because you chose this option, like, you know, how you're doing these service trips to Jordan, and you're helping out, and how you're also helping me out as well in trying to connect with these refugee artisans. You didn't ever feel this regret that why are you here, where you could be doing a corporate job somewhere else and earning way more, and you know how you would be managing your time, because obviously, you know, especially during COVID, you have to struggle so much, and you know, flying back to Jordan, back to the US. So what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, you know, I mean, after I left the White House, I could have kept working with Mrs. Obama's initiative. And my dad was like, you should really do that. Or, you know, working in a think tank in Washington, D.C. I can make a lot more money. But for me, it's really about, you know, the last 4 years going around the world, sharing these stories. I think stories empower service. If we can learn people's stories, we better know how to act. And it's been the most inspiring few years of my life. And so, you know, I wouldn't change it for anything. And, you know, as Shaikha talked about, you know, happiness, you know, this path has really, you know, left me fulfilled. Yeah.
Wow, that's really amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we will take a question from Tekang. Tekang, would you like to unmute yourself, please?
Thanks very much, Jordan, for that beautiful presentation. It's something, the topic is something very important to me, you know, as a refugee topic, which is a very hot issue when it comes to international relations. And I'm happy that you're in the same field like me. I just want to find out from you. I don't know about what has been the plight of refugees that you've been working with, particularly with the COVID-19 and with what they call the vaccine diplomacy. Have you been able to kind of whoop states to see how to supply vaccines to refugees, probably in Syria, that's in Lebanon, which you find yourself, or in the camps in Turkey, or in some other areas?
That's a great question. You know, I haven't worked on the vaccine component, but unfortunately, there's just so many that haven't been vaccinated here in Jordan, of the Syrian refugee population, and I think that's a really important thing to remember, that it's, you know, of who's left out right now of getting the vaccine. I have been working on getting like PPE equipment. I got some from China to Jordan for Syrian refugees, and then I've been mainly focusing on education. So I just brought I think it was 7 laptops with me from the US. I just flew back to Jordan this week to help students with online learning. You know, we've got 35% of eligible students are not going to school here in Jordan. Many of those are refugees. So making sure they have the technology to get online is something I've kind of put most of my effort towards. But I think you're absolutely right. Figuring out how we can advocate for countries that don't have vaccines easily.
Thanks very much. I would like to get in touch to you. Probably I'm going to get your email for us to keep in touch so we could work together, you know, and share ideas. And because I'm working on SDG4, quality education, so we see how to put things together and probably forge ahead. Thanks very much for this unique opportunity.
Thank you, King. I look forward to being in contact with you.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Thank you so much, Tekang. Would anyone else like to ask any question to Jordan? Okay. I think then, Jordan, any concluding remarks from you?
No, I was inspired by this whole summit and Shaikha's remarks. A lot to think about in terms of, you know, how to live a purposeful life. So I really enjoyed her talk.
Yeah, and for me personally, how you mentioned that, I think Dr. Osama's example, yeah, that like we don't usually think about this, that people who are on the front line and they have families back home, and when as soon as you just said, what he said, this, that I'm giving my life because I'm following my passion, and that is, it just touched my heart. And these are the kind of people that we need to look up to, and we need to, like, at least try to be that 1%.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So thank you so much. And thank you so much to Shaikha as well. I hope you all enjoyed these two talks. Stay tuned. Tomorrow we will be having again 2 talks, a double treat for you at 2 p.m. Thank you so much, everyone, and stay on board. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.